Google is pushing out its largest Maps update in 10 years. They are embedding Gemini, which is Google's proprietary large language model, or AI, directly into the navigation interface. We are moving away from typing a static address and following a blue line. Maps is now acting as a proactive, conversational travel agent that builds itineraries and answers complex logistical questions on the fly. But recent technology releases follow a predictable pattern. The marketing looks flawless, while the actual utility falls flat. For daily drivers, the question is whether adding highly detailed 3D graphics to the dashboard actually reduces the anxiety of navigating a tricky interchange, or if it simply creates visual clutter when you're going 70 miles an hour. And if you use an iPhone, you have to ask if Apple's closed hardware ecosystem will even allow you to use these new hands-free Google tools while you are behind the wheel. You are being asked to trade your traditional search autonomy, scrolling through lists and dropping pins, for AI-curated convenience. We need to look closely at how these specific features actually perform on the road. The core of the driving update is called Immersive Navigation. It abandons the flat, top-down 2D map in favor of fully rendered 3D environments that reflect the actual buildings and terrain around you. The way you process directions changes here. Instead of telling you to turn in 500 feet, the voice guidance shifts to natural, landmark-based cues, like telling you to go past the current exit and take the next one. At complex interchanges, the system renders buildings ahead as transparent, so you clearly see the glowing turn lane you need. This quadrant chart maps the real cost. Moving from traditional 2D to immersive 3D mapping along the x-axis improves cognitive clarity, but hardware drain shoots up. For minimalist drivers, this influx of 3D data falls into the high-friction zone, feeling overwhelming. The system also layers real-time community disruption alerts, like crashes or construction, directly onto this 3D model, constantly calculating the trade-offs between a longer route with less traffic or a faster route with a toll. You trade your phone's battery life, cellular data limits, and visual simplicity for hyper-accurate spatial awareness. Off the road, the update introduces Ask Maps. This is designed to replace your current habit of cross-referencing Yelp reviews, Reddit threads, and standard Google searches to figure out where to go. You can now type a multivariable conversational prompt. You could ask it to find a vegan-friendly spot that has easy parking, located exactly halfway between your office and your friend's apartment. This flowchart shows the processing. Disparate data silos, user reviews, menus, routing data, funnel into a central Gemini node, outputting one curated map result. Notice the error symbol disrupting the menu stream. If Gemini hallucinates a hyperlocal fact, that single error corrupts the entire recommendation. There is also a glaring lack of clarity regarding monetization. Google has not explained how or when sponsored placements will be integrated into these AI-generated answers. Ask Maps eliminates the heavy lifting of trip planning, but it requires you to surrender your organic discovery process to a black box algorithm that may eventually prioritize ad revenue over the best local recommendation. We must look at the massive segment of drivers locked into the Apple hardware ecosystem who rely on Carplay, Apple's native in-car software platform. Apple enforces strict software restrictions. iOS explicitly prevents third-party assistants, like Google, from serving as the default voice trigger when you are driving. This diagram shows the technical workaround for iPhone users setting up a nested command. You speak to a Siri gatekeeper node, which passes your prompt to a secondary Google Assistant node. This architecture introduces a noticeable time delay and higher failure rate. Furthermore, Apple CarPlay users will inherently receive these immersive navigation updates much slower than native Android users due to a staggered software rollout. If you use an iPhone, you have to accept significant ecosystem friction and ongoing latency just to access Google's superior conversational tools completely hands-free. Deciding whether to adopt these features depends entirely on your specific pain points on the road. Consider the anxious driver. This is someone who prioritizes predictability and often struggles to navigate complex highway interchanges. If that is you, adopt immersive navigation immediately. The natural voice cues and clear visual lane highlights directly solve those problems. Then there is the Power Planner. This is the designated itinerary builder of the group who values rapid logistical curation. Use Ask Maps to gather inspiration and check the vibe of an area, but you must verify specific details, like operating hours or menu items outside the AI before you actually make the drive. Finally, look at the iOS loyalist, heavily reliant on Apple Carplay. Go ahead and set up the nested Siri shortcut today. Despite the latency, you need to acclimate to this workflow because hands-free conversational tech is where all driving interfaces are heading. The era of manual, keyword-based location search is dead. Every user must decide if skipping the heavy lifting of trip planning is worth the trade-off of trusting an AI to curate the physical world.